All right. So file maintenance. So again, like I said at the beginning, this is one of the ones that I really harp on quite a bit. Clean files, not having duplicate line work in there. I know that a lot of folks get different line work. It's one thing to have constructions, line work on construction versus design. But it's also if you have a bunch of different profiles, if you have a bunch of different elements like that, of just having clean files, and not leaving like working elements. Like if you're laying out geometry and you want to use tangents and put those on construction lines, that's great. Leave them on construction lines. You can turn those off. What we don't want to do is have those tangents in there and those on a level that are going to show up somewhere on somebody's sheet or in somebody's reference file and not know what it is that they're looking at, or if they have a different alignment on there. So clean files that, to your point, Gary, that you just brought up, making sure that we don't have ancillary items. Like if there's a boneyard file, have a separate boneyard file. Again, kind of even going back to the Federation of Files, a reason of why having that as a separate file is making sure that that information doesn't propagate across to everything else, and then the person that is referencing it having to deal with it, mask it, or do other things. Have that as a separate file. Put it in your working container file, and have that referenced in. If you want to steal from it and do it, and then detach it, get rid of it, then that boneyard's not around there ever. So that way you just have it as a separate file. Again, reference only what is needed. What is the file's use? Again, I'll go back to like geometry. Only thing I need to have in a geometry file at the end of the day is my existing terrain model, because my existing terrain is going to feed from my profile. Do I want to have my design line work, my topo planimetrics, drainage, some other things as I'm establishing control line? Yes, but I don't need that control line tied to anything other than having a terrain model, my existing terrain model set as active. That existing terrain model is the only thing that needs to be in there at the end of the day. So we want to get rid of that. And actually I just realized that's the example I used. So do not duplicate references. I see this a lot. I see references that someone will reference in, again, like roadway design container. They'll have that referenced in, and then someone will go, and then they'll go ahead and reference in a corridor file that came from the container, or they'll reference in different geometries that are in the geometry container. It's really that communication and knowing that relationship of the project and the team members and the specialty groups. Again, like I said, use working container files that are not data related. Again, that example I just used, the existing train's the only thing that's data related to that geometry. You can see some of the graphics that I have up here, like, so that middle one, that's a roadway design container file. So it's got all my corridors in it. It's the only thing I need to have in there. So it's got my corridors that I need to have in that file. The one below, I seem to run into quite a bit. Reason for that is nested depths, using containers when they shouldn't be used, double referencing, things like that. This we do not want to see, because it will not only slow down your performance, files will go corrupt. You will have printing problems at the end of the day because someone's referencing a file from someone else. Well, if this file, sorry, I'm pointing with my hands here instead of using my pointer. This file is referencing these, which is referencing that, which is referencing these and that and this and that and everything else. So you can see what's happening. So if I have that referenced into any of my production sheet files or anything else that I'm working on, it's going to just sit there and keep looking and keep looking and keep looking. Where are those files? Where are those files? Whether or not those files are turned on or even not nested, that file that you're trying to open project wise still goes through the process and says, I have a lot of files attached to this. Am I missing anything? Still has to think, am I supposed to attach anything to that? So we really want to get away from doing this and get more to this and this. Again, it's file maintenance, it's file management, it's managing those files and really thinking about, go back to the non-attributed elements versus the attributed elements and what carries forward and what doesn't. So I think with that, Sahar, we can stop recording. And then we'll go to questions.